Hi, I'm Jeff Goodman and welcome to Scubaverse.com. Today I'm speaking to Miranda Krestovnikoff, TV and radio presenter, author and diver. Miranda, great to see you. How are you keeping?
I'm good. It's a beautiful sunny day. I'm, sitting at home, and it's things are fine actually. Yeah, it's been a bit dry over the summer, as in I haven't really got very wet. I haven't done a huge amount of diving, but hopefully things are going to pick back up. But I'm very well, thank you.
Last time we worked together, you had two small children. I guess they must be getting a bit bigger now.
A bit bigger, yeah. So my youngest has just started at secondary school, and my eldest has started her GCSE course. So I know you look at your children and suddenly you feel really old.
Oh my goodness! Are you teaching them to dive yet?
So my eldest has qualified. Yeah.
Wow.
She goes a couple of years ago, and that was just brilliant. I mean, they're both complete water babies. They love being in the water, and I think the most difficult thing about that trip was the frustration of the younger one, who could only do his bubble maker. So he was only really allowed to go down to 2 meters. But every time the instructor let go of him to do something, he'd shoot down to like 6-7 meters, and then she'd go and grab his set and yank him back up to 2 meters, sort of wag her finger at him. But he's all lined up. In fact, I wanted to get him qualified over the summer because he's 11 now, but due to all sorts of regulations and everything that was going on, it didn't happen. But might have an opportunity coming up before it gets too cold in this country. But definitely, I mean, he's being lined up to being qualified. But so they both love spending time in the water, whether it's free diving, snorkeling, or just swimming. So it is a natural progression for them to follow suit and get trained.
Yes, of course. What is the age for learning to dive now?
So when you are 8, you can do a bubble maker program, and so both of them on their 8th birthday, friends around, and we hired a local swimming pool, and just to 2 meters, you can just play around with kit and just feel like a scuba diver because you're breathing underwater. Actually, before then, you can wear a set with a tiny little reg, and you can actually swim on the surface. So they both did that from like the age of 5.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing actually, but also for them, I think it's really important for them to feel that, even from an early age, the moment they can swim, they can actually learn to be a scuba diver, even if part of it's on the surface, and then there's obviously this gradation of depth. You can't throw an 8-year-old in the sea, and expect them to dive, but they can start learning the skills, and then you're planting the seed for them to think, right, when I'm 11, yes, then I can be a PADI junior open water diver, and I can dive down to 14 meters, and it starts to get really exciting. So, and I think also if they're seeing their parents diving, then they just want to do the same, and it's great. I think I'm so excited that the kids are learning to do it, and actually, they have to do all the technical theory stuff just as we did. So there's quite a lot of stuff for an 11-year-old to take on board, actually, all the theory. But it's taught really well. My daughter had an amazing experience with really sympathetic divers and loved every minute of it. So
where was that?
That was in Gozo.
Right.
And it was just great because the water was warmish. There's lots of life. It's quiet and calm there. Beautiful limestone formations. She went in a cave on her 3rd or 4th dive. I mean, it was swim throughs but nice big, beautiful arches, beautiful clear water, lots of lovely fish to see, octopus. So they're so spoiled. I sort of think seaweed and a spider crab. But
have they dived in this country?
Not yet, no. In
Right.
fact, my son may learn to dive in this country. We'll have to see. I don't really feel like I want to get on a plane and go anywhere at the moment.
No.
Even if somebody paid me to do it, I wouldn't do it. So I think we're limited to what we can do here. So we're looking at local quarries and things like that for him as a possibility before it gets too cold. But might have to wait till next year. We'll see. Yeah. Everything is so limited at the moment. It's such a shame. You've got a bit more time on your hands, and you're looking for the things for the kids to do, and then they can't do them. But
no, hopefully. I haven't been in very much this year at all. I mean, the occasional beach dive early in the morning before holidaymakers get there, and that's it. But that's only about twice this summer. So
Yeah, I've actually done more scuba diving at the bottom of my pond at home. My daughter she had some friends over. So we got, it's how I say pond. It's a bit like a lake, but a lake sounds a bit pretentious, doesn't it? But so we have a wildlife pond in the garden that we swim in, and she was paddleboarding with some friends, and she put her mobile phone in an aqua pack and had tied it to the paddleboard, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. And she had no idea which bit of the pond that it had dropped in. And so we all started, just free diving down to try and find this thing. Couldn't find it. So then we get the scuba gear on. I spent 3 hours at the bottom of the pond on this. So couldn't find it. Yeah. And then my husband said, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in. 30 minutes later, he comes out, and the phone has been at the bottom of the pond for 2 weeks. We open the aqua pack. It's absolutely bone dry. So
there's an advert there somewhere.
I was going to say, I have written to them. I've said,
perfect.
Products are amazing. 2 weeks in water. So, yeah. So that's the most diving that I've done, really.
But you have. I was just looking at your website. You've written a load of books.
I've written a few.
4, 5.
Yeah, four in total. Yeah.
One about birds, but the other 4 are the other 3 about diving.
They are. Well, they're about diving in the sea. So I did one on the best British beaches, which was quite a while ago, and I did one quite a long time ago with Monty Halls about scuba diving generally. And then the most recent one is all about the sea. So it's a children's book. It's very lavishly illustrated by this amazing lady who just brings the underwater world alive, but with a lot of use of colour. So it's not all blue and green. There's a lot of oranges and purples and yellows, and she just injects a lot of life into the underwater world. So that's for sort of late primary, early secondary school children, talking about all the different habitats that we have in the seas and oceans around the world. So some little anecdotes from diving, but mostly a sort of celebration of the underwater world and all the different creatures that live in it, and all the wonders of seaweed and lugworms and orca and polar bears, and right from the tiny to the magnificent. So it's all about inspiring children about the world that I love, the world that I call my home.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just watching a film on Netflix. It's The Octopus is My Teacher Was My Teacher.
I want to watch that. I was going to watch that the other night, and then we ended up watching Suits.
It's amazing. It's why I dive. It's such a well-made film. It's on Netflix. Do catch it if you can.
It was on my list.
And you remind me about colours and things. I remember your favourite colour is purple.
It is. I know. If you see somebody in a purple dry suit, that's me.
So how? I never see purple dry suits anywhere. How did you get a purple dry suit?
Well, O3 very kindly made me a couple of dry suits for when I did Direct Detectives, and we were trying to inject a bit. The first one was black. Everybody wears black, and I didn't want to. I didn't wear black really, so I had a sort of turquoise and red one. And then when I started doing Coast and the One Show, I said, can I have can you make me a purple one? And they went to a great deal of trouble to get neoprene from the other side of the world, I think. And then I said, actually, I do need 2 because, as you know, things go wrong on boats, and you get all your kit on, and you jump in and you realise there's a hole somewhere, and then you've got to do another second or third dive that day as well. You don't want to be diving in a wet dry suit. So I have got 2 identical neoprene dry suits, but apparently after I started doing filming work and it was broadcast, then O3 started getting phone calls from people saying, can we have purple? But the purple's really hard to come by apparently. So of course, probably a huge headache for them, but but they are very special. And I don't know what it is about the colour purple, but my fins are purple, most of my kit's purple. It's just, I got married in purple. It's just
really?
So why not?
Yeah, well, as I say, it's very identifiable. Certainly know it's you.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. No, don't worry. You just mentioned phone ringing. That was my phone. Sorry about that. I thought I turned it off, but I hadn't. There you go. So you're not traveling at the moment. Have you got?
I'm not going anywhere at the moment. I can't really get my head around getting on a plane. I don't really. I went into London at the weekend. That's about as far as. That's the first time on a train for 6 months. That was weird. And Paddington Station was eerily quiet at 5 o'clock on a Friday. That was a bit scary. But no, I'm not flying anywhere at the moment. I don't think it's safe, so I'm going to stay at home. And I'm really happy. We had 2 amazing holidays in this country with the children. We went to Scotland and we went to Pembrokeshire, spent a lot of time in water in both locations. And I think we can all just stop and enjoy what's on our doorstep a little bit more. We have some really, really beautiful countryside around this country. So why not just spend a bit more time here? Don't get on a plane.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. So have you had time to plan any projects for when all this lockdown eases up?
Well, it's all a bit quiet on the filming front at the moment. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the media industry about, I know there are people out there planning expeditions and filming trips, but most of my work has dried up over the summer. I've done a few little local films, but as far as sort of big projects are concerned, I think people are just worried about planning anything because there's so much uncertainty. So I feel very much that life's on hold at the moment. Certainly filming projects are on hold. So I'm doing a few things by myself. I'm looking for different opportunities of using up a bit of spare time that I've got at the moment. But it's a weird time. It's a little bit unsettling because I don't quite know where I'm going to be in 6 months' time. But say you just got to make the most of having a little bit of extra time. So trying to do other projects. So I'm doing things with the RSPB and Marine Conservation Society. I've just been asked by Paddy to be an ambassador diver. So I've got to try and work out what that means and find ways of promoting diving, particularly UK diving, as much as I can over the next few months. I think I'll get my kids involved in that, actually. I think there's a big gap with children not being engaged in scuba diving, particularly in the UK. I think a lot of older divers are slightly worried that the younger generation aren't learning, aren't training.
Yes, indeed.
To try and tackle that one a little bit more and see if there are incentives that we can come across with in this country, whether it's going into schools or scout groups or guide groups and things like that, and trying to offer kids try dives and just ways of engaging them with the marine world a little bit more. So I've got lots of thoughts and lots of plans, and as I say, a little bit of time to maybe explore some different things before hopefully next year. I think the filming will settle down. We'll find ways of coping with the situation that we're in at the moment, and hopefully things will go back to normal a little bit more anyway.
With conservation, how long have you been diving now?
Since university, so since I was 18.
Okay. Since that time to now, what have you noticed? What's been the most marked differences in the sea and marine life in those years?
Huge differences. I'm sure you found the same. You know, I remember going to Egypt and diving in the Red Sea when I was, so at university, so probably, I don't know, nearly 30 years ago. And then you go back, 20 years later, and just, it all feels very different, really. I mean, I think it just, without talking about the negatives all the time, I mean, just destruction of habitat and just fewer things in the sea, fewer sharks, fewer fish. So much more fishing going on, so much more pollution. The amount of plastic, I mean, that's got to be one thing that has just changed hugely, and not just abroad. You notice it in this country. That's one thing I'm really trying to do something about, work with groups great groups of divers who go and clean up the oceans. You know, especially if you can't do a load of diving at the moment, you can't go abroad, you know, why can't you maybe use your dives to try and do cleanups and get your dive club together to do a cleanup dive. There's so much rubbish out there at the moment. It's so depressing, you know, when you go on a beautiful dive, especially to a location that you know and love, and, you know, there's plastic bottles or fishing line, you know, just trailing everywhere. I mean, you and I we did a ghost fishing piece.
We did indeed, yeah.
It was alarming, and you just, I think the big thing is you just don't see from the surface. So if you're not a diver, or if you don't even snorkel, you sort of look out on the sea, you stand on the beach looks fairly clean, you look out on the sea, you don't really see what's underneath.
No.
You put your head under the water and you see these vast swathes of net that are just keeping on fishing, and they're just full of dead fish and all sorts of.
It is horrible.
It's really depressing. So, and I don't know how we tackle that problem. You know, I think the marine plastics, obviously there are lots of things we can do to stop the plastics getting in the ocean in the first place, and there are lots of cleanup operations, big and small, that we can do as well. But things like ghost fishing, I don't know. I know there are companies out there and organisations out there trying to retrieve it and make it into swimming costumes and all sorts of things, but that is
Yes, there are. Yeah.
So yeah, it's difficult, it's depressing. I mean, yeah, so there are obviously changes, and I don't think any of them I can really say are particularly positive.
No, it's a shame, but I know what you mean.
But I can say that, you know, going back to when my daughter was learning to dive, you know, a big part of her training was they were always reminded to take a net bag with them. If you see any rubbish, pick it up. And often at the end of the dive, I was, you know, what did you see? And instead of telling me about the fish and the octopus and the coral, she'd say, oh, but look at my bag, it's full. Slightly sad, but it is great that generation are being taught how to clean up the oceans, and really they can see what's going into the sea, and hopefully can help do something to change, you know, stuff going in the first place, or stop items going in the first place. So, you know, there's a lot of positive messaging out there, which is good. And I'm an inherently positive person, so I try as much as possible, without being unrealistic, to think about the good things that are happening and the positive things that are happening. But sometimes it's pretty tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's a good way to be. I mean, we notice it down here a lot. Throughout the lockdown and the quiet period, the beaches were amazing and fantastic. And now after the summer, there's masks, surfboards, flippers, bags, barbecues, just all left all over the beaches. And it's down to a dedicated few locals to go down and clear it all up, which is such a shame,
isn't it? When it's such a beautiful environment, that people have to spoil it by not taking home what they arrived on the beach with in the first place, which just doesn't compute with me. I just can't work that one out. But.
And I think they think that it's okay because somebody's going to clear it up.
Yeah, who? You.
Exactly.
With a rubbish bag.
Yeah, and they have no concept of, or very little concept of it actually going into the sea and what damage it does.
Yeah. It's out of sight, out of mind. I mean, if you go for a walk in a woodland and you see litter lying around, you can see, you see it. But the moment it's in the water, the moment it's in a river or in the ocean, it's just disappeared. People just don't get it, do they?
No.
No, we're surrounded by images and videos of plastic in the oceans and people diving through seas of plastic. Somehow the penny just hasn't dropped yet, has it? So... we'll keep on fighting. We need to just keep on telling people. So
absolutely. Well, when we do get back into the water, just as a thought, I keep dreaming of it. What's your favourite kind of diving? What's your favourite kind of places to go?
Oh, that's so difficult. I mean, how do you compare, a sort of chilled out hour on a coral reef, just sort of floating and drifting with the tide, to a one-to-one encounter with a grey seal in the Farne Islands? I mean, it's no comparison. I think I do really enjoy those animal encounter moments. I think because they're so special, they're so unusual and so unpredictable. There's nothing you can do before you hit the water. There's nothing you can do to engineer an encounter with a friendly dolphin or with a seal or a manta ray or something like that. You know, you don't know if it's going to happen, and you don't know how you're going to react and how that creature's going to react to you, and that makes it even more special. So I think especially when a really intelligent social mammal comes up to you and approaches you and actually clearly wants to interact with you. If you look a seal in the eye, you know, it's looking at you and it's almost willing you to play with it. And that's not anthropomorphizing at all. You know, if anybody, you know what it's like. You know, they're looking at you going, right, okay, what should we do next? Where should we go? Find me. What happens if I do this? What does this bit do? You know, why have you got these on your feet? It's just so much fun. And I become a real child. I'm an absolute kid in the water. I've got a smile on my face. You know, I'm giggling to myself, and it just. Especially when we're filming, I just don't even care. Sometimes I just think, well, if you want to film this, it's fine, but I'm just going to go and have fun with the seals. So I think those sort of dives are just the best, absolutely the best. Dives like that where you just don't want to get out of the water. You know, your gauge says 50 bar and you think, I know, but I want to stay in a bit longer. So you do. So I think, and you don't have to go abroad to have those sort of encounters as well. I think people have heard me say this a million times before, but what I love about the UK is that you can have some of the most memorable dives with really big, charismatic megafauna. Some of the best animal encounters I've ever had in my life have been here in the UK. So not travelling across the globe. Obviously, you know, it's amazing swimming with a whale shark or a manta ray or something, but what we have here is really special. And just spending time in the water with an animal and not pushing it, not trying to chase after it, just almost waiting. And you dive like this. I know you're very, very sympathetic. You won't chase things. You just will sit and watch, and you're watching that animal's behaviour and working out if it's interested in you, trying to predict what it's doing. And it's patient. It's not... I think very much in our lives today, we want everything. We want it now. You know, we want to press a button and receive a reward. And actually, I love that dive where it's just peaceful, calm. Time seems to stand still, and you just wait for something to happen if it does.
Do watch The Octopus, My Teacher.
I'm going to watch it tonight. Now you said.
Yeah, it's just everything you've been talking about.
Yeah.
Miranda, it's been lovely to see you, and thanks for taking time to talk to us.
I hope we get to dive together sometime soon.
Absolutely. All right, well, you take care now.
Will do. Take care, you.
Bye. Bye.